This is a tutorial about cell references. Specifically, I want to show you the difference between an absolute reference or a relative reference. In Excel, there are 4 different reference types. The default type is called a relative cell reference, and that's what we've been using up until now. A relative cell reference has no special notation. For instance, here is an example. A reference to cell F2 has no other keystrokes. And if you put this into a formula and then you copied your formula from one location to another, maybe you copy down a column or you copy across a row, that F2 will change relative to its new position on the worksheet when you copy it. And that's a really good thing, because if we didn't have that, we would have to rewrite our formulas for every new cell that we want to do that calculation. And that would be just out of control, time consuming. But the opposite of that is something called an absolute cell reference. And you can see that it does have a special notation here. Absolute references are indicated with $signs. And in this particular instance, it's an absolute reference to the cell F2. In this reference, if you copied that formula that had this reference across a row or down a column or to any other place on your worksheet, that would not change. That reference in that formula would stay referring to F2 no matter what. There are also 2 other kinds of references called mixed references. In a mixed reference, you can either absolute on the column or you can put absolute on the row. In this example, we put the $sign before the F. So in this example, the column reference would not change if the formula got copied, for instance, across a row or down a column. It would not change at all. But the row could change. If we copied this formula down a column, the row might change, but the column will not. In this next reference, the column could change, but the row will not. The row has been indicated to be absolute, and that's what the $sign in front of the row indicator is for. So let's take a look and see what this is like. Here I have a sample payroll. Very simple. It's actually, of course, not what an accountant would do fully. This is just very minimal work, but it's enough for you to see what's going on here. We have the names of our employees, we have the hours that they've worked, we have their rate of pay, and we have the rate of pay multiplied times the hours to get the gross pay. Let me show you that. Here on the Formula tab, I can go to Show Formulas, and look at that. I can see the formulas that produce the results that you saw a second ago. This Show Formulas is a great tool to know about. Again, it's on the Formulas tab of the ribbon. In the Formula Auditing group, it's called Show Formulas. And it's like a light switch. Turn it on, turn it off. Click it on, click it off. You can also do it from your keyboard with Control Accent. The Accent key is right underneath your Escape key. I do it that way a lot because I don't always want to go up to my ribbon, but either way, it's the same. Turn on your view, turn it off. Very nice. So we can see here that we took the value in B6 and multiplied it times the value in C6 to get that person's gross pay. Once we got that formula, we used the fill handle to copy it down the column, and those references changed at every row, so they would be referring to the data for each individual employee. If those references did not change, we would have had to retype this formula every time. So the fact that most references are relative is a huge time saver for us. In this column, we already are set up with a formula to figure out what the net pay will be once we have a tax amount. But we don't have our tax amounts yet. And this is the column where I am going to set up a mistake. I want you to first see what will go wrong if we don't use an absolute reference. Then we'll edit the formula, we'll put in an absolute reference, and you'll see the benefit. Okay, so I will begin with the first employee. I'm sure you all remember that all formulas begin with an equal sign, so I'll type an equal sign. And what I need to do here is I need to multiply the employee's gross pay times the tax percentage. So I will click on the gross pay amount, then I'll type an asterisk for multiplication, and then I will click on the tax rate. And now I have my formula, D6 times F2. And I can just click the check mark up here, and I have a result. And that worked just fine. I was able to take the employee's gross pay, multiply it times the tax rate, come up with an amount that I'll need to deduct from the gross pay, and that's what this formula did over here. So far, so good. But here's the problem. Now I've got this formula that worked for my first employee. Watch what happens if I drag it down the column. All of a sudden, I've got lots of problems here. This is not working at all. Let's find out why not. I will turn on my show hide again, and look at this. There's my first formula. It worked just fine. But now I have D7, which I want, but it's multiplying times F3. Let me zoom out just a little bit so you can see better. So it's taking D7 and it's multiplying it times F3, which is a blank cell. And look at the problem here. It's taking D8, which we want it to do, but it's multiplying it times this text called net pay. Look at this one. It's taking D9, which is correct. We want it to do that, but it's multiplying it again against a blank cell. And again, this F2 becomes F3, and then F4, and then F5, etc., etc. And we don't want that to happen. We want this F2 to remain absolute. We want every single one of these gross pay figures to be multiplied against this one cell. We do not want F2 to become F3, F4, F5, etc. We do want D6 to become D7, D8, D9, etc. So, do you see the problem here? I'm going to turn off my show formulas, and I'm going to go ahead and delete these formulas here. So we go back to the way we were starting. Now, once again, I'm going to type my formula by beginning with an equal sign. I do want to take the value in D6. I'll just click on that, and I will type an asterisk to multiply. But instead of just clicking on F2, this time I will type it in. I'll type $F, $2. Now I have an absolute reference to that cell F2. Watch what happens when I copy it this time. I'll click the check mark. I've got success for my first employee. I'll point at my fill handle. I'll drag down through row 12, and look at that. Now I have success. Let me click off of here. Let me do show formulas, and you can see that D6 got multiplied against F2. Then D7 got multiplied against F2, and then D8 and D9 and D10. All of those, as appropriate, got multiplied against this one cell, which remained absolute because of the $ indicators. To be honest with you, in this particular instance, we could have typed $2. We could have used that mixed reference because the column letter wasn't changing. Our problem was because the row number was changing. So we could have typed D6 times $2, and that would also have worked. But I wanted you to see the full absolute reference usage here. This is a really important tool. In certain situations, it will make it so that you don't have to type every formula by yourself. If you didn't know about absolute references, you would have had to have typed all these formulas by hand. And just suppose what that would be like if you had 200 employees instead of just a handful. It's a big, important time saver.